I love the West End of Portsmouth. We have some top-tier businesses around here, and podcast alum Tanya Hart owns several of them. In the same building as her award-winning Oomph Salon is Oomph's equally impressive sister space, Ash Alchemy Spa. Ash Alchemy is a holistic spa built around restoration, healing, and intentional self-care. They've been voted best massage in the Portsmouth region multiple years running. They've got therapeutic massage, facials, energy-based treatments, all delivered by skilled practitioners who care about you. They use clean, organic products in a calm and grounding space. I've had a lovely massage there. My friend Kate swears by the foot soaks. The aromas hit you the second you walk in. The vibe is locked in. The staff is well-trained. I mean, aside from a slice of pizza from Otto downstairs, what more could you need? Ash Alchemy pairs perfectly with Oomph Salon. Get your hair fixed up, then go upstairs and reset your nervous system. Lord knows I could use all of that right now. If you're due for maintenance, or you just need a full-on reset, Ash Alchemy is worth your time. You can learn more about everything they have to offer at ashalchemy.co. Link is in the show notes. Welcome to Seacoast Stories, a weekly podcast where we interview the people and businesses of New Hampshire and Maine. I'm Troy Farkas. I've produced some of the most popular podcasts in the world, and since moving to the Seacoast in 2023, I've fallen in love with the area and its inspiring people. And now, I'm on a mission to bring the Seacoast closer together, one podcast at a time. February is Black History Month, and 2026 marks an important milestone for this important tradition. In 1926, historian Carter G. Woodson from Chicago started Black History Week, a week-long celebration that remained the norm until 50 years later, when then-President Gerald Ford expanded Black History Week to Black History Month, a 28-day observation aimed to celebrate Black arts and culture, the oft-overlooked contributions of African Americans to this country, and to tell the real, not sugar-coated stories of the Black experience in America. Growing up in upstate New York, I looked forward to Black History Month every year. I think it's when I fell in love with history. As an 8-year-old, I remember learning the inspiring stories of Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, well, the version that's appropriate for third graders to hear. And I remember feeling so inspired by their bravery and how they stuck to their principles in the face of seemingly insurmountable circumstances. In fact, when you ask me that cliche question of who are 3 people, dead or alive, you'd want to sit at a dinner table with, my answer always is Nelson Mandela from South Africa, Mohandas Gandhi from India, and Martin Luther King Jr. I am in awe of those who stand for something, who fight for what they believe is right, even if that fight has the potential to cost them everything. Ona Judge is a lesser-known name than those titans of civil rights, but her bravery is not to be overlooked. She was an enslaved woman in colonial America, and not just any slave, but a slave to the most powerful man in the brand new United States of America, President George Washington. In the late 1700s, Ona Judge lived with the Washingtons at their presidential home in Philadelphia. And while she certainly enjoyed more privileges than most enslaved people of her era, slavery as an institution certainly didn't sit well with Judge. So, in 1796, Ona Judge fled, fully aware of what would happen to her if someone caught her. Somehow, she escaped undetected, despite Washington's efforts to return her to Philadelphia. Her destination? Portsmouth, New Hampshire. On today's episode, the story of Ona Judge, why she fled the Washingtons, how she did it, what she found when she came to the Seacoast, and why her story has been a major contributor to our understanding of slavery today. Plus, as the current administration looks to rewrite the history books, why the story of Ona Judge is more critical to celebrate than ever before. Today's guest is Daria Steele. She's a program assistant at the Black Heritage Trail of New Hampshire, whose offices are located in downtown Portsmouth. The trail is the foremost authority on Black history in the state, and Daria is one of several voices responsible for ensuring these stories are told and told correctly. Here's Daria with the story. You grew up in Bedford, New Hampshire.
Yep.
What was growing up in Bedford like? I know nothing. I'm not from here.
It's pretty white.
Okay, great.
So that's interesting.
That's the first thing you say.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially with this line of work, you got to mention it. My dad and his family grew up in Bedford, and they were one of the first, if not the first, Black families to move there. So I can't even imagine what he went through growing up. But it was a good place to grow up. It just was a little white, which, I mean, it's New Hampshire. What do you expect? But
do you know the demos off the top of your head, percentage of Black people in New Hampshire?
It went up, but it's like 1%, something like that. But I think it's gone up.
Aren't New Hampshire and Maine like the lowest two in the country or something?
Maybe Vermont.
Yeah.
Vermont seems really white to me.
Yeah. Vermont is white.
May just be a stereotype.
Okay. We went to UNH, right?
Yeah.
So what drove that decision?
To be completely honest, I didn't know if I wanted to go to college. My parents were like, yes, you do. And I thought UNH was just going to be like a safe choice, location-wise, and especially because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it ended up being great. I made some great friends that I still see now, and I learned a lot, and I majored in anthropology with a minor in women and gender studies. And through my anthropology career, I got a internship through the Seacoast African American Cultural Center here in Portsmouth, and from there here, and then after that a full-time job. But yeah, the anthropology department at UNH is very, very small as well, but it's got a lot of really amazing people, very well educated people, and I think they did a very good job with explaining Black history and Black culture when it comes to civilization.
Now, what drove you to study anthropology? That's not something you come across every day.
No, I know. I was like jumping around, and I was like, I have to pick a major. I briefly did political science, and then I took intro to political science, and I was like, wow.
You're like, I'm out.
Yeah, exactly. And then just to get all my like elective credits out of the way, I took an anthropology class, and I was like, wait, this is really cool. Looked more into it, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. Very, very spontaneous of me, but it worked out, and I did the cultural route. So not too much in the lab or archaeology, which I kind of do regret, but there's only so much time. But it also allowed me to learn a little bit more about just everything going on in New Hampshire, you know?
So why are you passionate about Black history?
Well, I grew up in a very white town growing up, and public school, very interesting place. Our Black history lesson was always just like Martin Luther King, slavery wasn't that bad, and we didn't have it in the North, and everything's okay now.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
kind of, yeah. So that's a big surprise with this job is a lot of people who grew up in the North or New England or New Hampshire are like, wait, we had enslaved people here? So it is really, really interesting to find that out as I go along and be able to teach that to other people. And like yourself, I'm a little bit of a history nerd. So I like to think of it, I'm just nosy. So I need to know everything about everything. So I don't know. I just learned more as I was an intern, and it just sparked my curiosity. And I really like being able to share that information with other people as well.
So you feel that education systems in New Hampshire don't do a great job of portraying the accurate story when it comes to Black history?
Yes. And I would say that is pretty true for most of American public schools. I mean, we work with a lot of teachers who are working very hard to change that and educate their students properly, but we're in a time where it's not always safe to do so for them. So we are trying to help them figure out how to teach these kids the proper American history without getting anyone fired.
And why has that been the case? That does seem to be the trends that in the last decade or so, there seems to be a cover-up or misportrayal of events. Why do you think that's happening?
I think it's just because it makes our country look bad. So a lot of people like to say, I don't know, just that we were always great and doing good things, and we stopped slavery, so everything's okay now. But the truth was, like, slavery was horrific.
Yeah.
And it built this country. And a lot of people don't like to admit that this country's standing on the shoulders of Black and brown people. And it's just, like you said, a cover-up. And people don't see the value of learning the proper history through the correct narrative. History is always written by the winners or the white people, the people in the power at the time.
Yeah.
So it can be very biased from what we've learned. And that's something, again, about this job that has allowed me to kind of open my eyes and realize what we were taught and what we're still being told now isn't always the case. And that happens with all types of American history, not just Black history.
I've never understood the mischaracterization of events. And this is not the same situation at all. But when I traveled to Berlin, which was perhaps the capital of the Holocaust, if you will, back in the 1940s, it was the most powerful exhibits I'd ever been to, this one memorial. The Holocaust is up there with the most horrible things in the history of humans. And they don't shy away from telling that story. They don't shy away from saying, these are the facts. This is what happened. These are the astounding numbers. This is just how bad it got. And this is what we did. We own up to that. We want to tell you that this is what happened. And we are very sorry that this happened, of course, but this did happen. And 80 years after the fact, I don't think any less of Germany because of what they did led by one deranged man in the 1940s. And so I think it's so important to tell these stories, and the fact that we are constantly running away from things that happened so long ago and are no longer representative of America today just really has always grinded my gears.
Yes. Yeah. No, exactly. That's a great example because they, like you said, they say, yeah, we did this. It was awful. We're sorry. And we want you to learn about what these people went through and how brave they were about it. And that's the same case that we're trying to do is we're trying to say, yes, we did this, but we are, I hope, better now. And it's important to learn about the people that were often oppressed because enslaved people and Black and brown people of the time, they weren't just slaves and they weren't just lower class citizens. They were people, and a lot of Black people did remarkable things despite the disadvantages and the oppression. And it's just important to know that, especially for young Black and brown kids growing up in America right now. Things aren't looking great, and it's very scary. So knowing that our history, I don't know, it's very enlightening and something to look forward to, and it's just uplifting in a time of crisis.
Do you think that now in 2026, it is a harder climate growing up in for children of color than when you were perhaps in the mid 2000s? Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I had the privilege of being ignorant. So I got to grow up in a predominantly white area and not really noticing that I wasn't white, kind of like not realizing that things were different for me. And then I grew up and I was like, oh, wait, that person was racist. But I think just the hate that's being cast out right now is so hard to ignore. And a lot of people are living in fear right now. And obviously, a lot of it is coming from the Trump administration, top down. I imagine these mandates from the government and intentions to sweep the truth and the past under the rug has made your life and career more difficult than it needs to be. Yeah. As a representative of the trail, I can't get too political. But we've definitely seen a lot of cutbacks funding-wise. I know we're not the only ones. Technically, we're DE&I and a nonprofit, so that's just like a double hit. We've seen a lack of funding, not only to us and other organizations like us, but schools and community centers and stuff like that, things that are meant to support and educate primarily people of color. That has definitely taken a dive, but it has also allowed everyone to kind of band together and fight the good fight, which is super inspiring, especially in such a small state like this. You don't really think that there are other people of color out there or allies or whatnot. So it is really nice to see everyone coming together and standing up for what's right. Yeah. What has the level of support been like in Portsmouth and on the Seacoast with terms of trying to secure the funds and the resources and the support to do your job the way it's meant to be done? I mean, I don't know. I think, funding's always been such a fun thing to deal with, which I'm very lucky that's not part of my job. But
I don't know. It's getting harder now. So we have to rely on other organizations such as the BLM Seacoast in Manchester and the NAACP and the New Hampshire Center for Justice and Equity are all some great partners of ours, sometimes sponsors, but they support us and we like to support them too. So I don't know. It's just a big part of it is kind of visibility, trying to get our message out there to maybe people with some money that actually understand and support what we're trying to do here. So maybe people want to donate money.
Maybe they do. That would be great.
Yeah,
I'll put a link in the show notes to do that. So what exactly is the mission of the Black Heritage Trail?
Yeah. So in short, the Black Heritage Trail of New Hampshire promotes awareness for African American Black history and culture in the state of New Hampshire. And we do that in a variety of ways. So mainly we do programs, educational and celebrations. We are currently in the middle of our Tea Talk series, our Eleanor Williams Hooker Tea Talk series, which is every Sunday in the month of February, typically at the Portsmouth Public Library. And they're just a series of lectures. The theme this year is Black oratory. So we are just looking at the tradition of African American speech making, the future of it, females, speakers and all of that. But every year for these, we would like to kind of promote a specific topic, and then we find speakers for it. We always have a Juneteenth celebration, which always looks a little different, but it always ends on the 19th with African drumming at the Portsmouth Burying Ground. We always host a conference called the Black New England Conference, or BNEC, in the fall, typically in Manchester. We do a Frederick Douglass statewide reading, which we read Frederick Douglass's speech, What to the Slave is the 4th of July, which he gave in New Hampshire, I think, maybe. Well, he once spoke in Concord, so that's a thing. But we have about 19 other towns in New Hampshire, and we all read the speech together at the same time on the same date. And we always do it before the 4th of July. So on the holiday, we're able to reflect on what this holiday means to a lot of people. And then we also do like a ton of little stuff in between. We always have walking tours in the summer. We always are trying to send speakers out as much as we can. And we are always asked to speak at other things as well.
Cool. And what is the staff like here?
So we're small staff. There's 7 or 8 of us. I think 7. We just added 2 new people, which has been incredibly helpful, which is insane. But a lot of people have been here for a long time. Our executive director, Jerry Bogus, I want to say like 9 years now, has been like single-handedly spearheading our mission. We were founded about 30 years ago by Valerie Cunningham, and it started out as the Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail. And Jerry Ann took it on 9 or so years ago, and we expanded to the whole state. For a while, she was doing all that by herself, and then we started bringing in some staff. So now we are the largest staff this organization has seen, which is amazing, despite it only being like 7 people. But it just means we have to work that much harder and work together. But it's a good environment to be in, and it's always nice to be downtown Portsmouth.
Absolutely. So in downtown Portsmouth, if I were to go on a walking tour, what are some of the historic sites in town that you would bring me to?
Yeah. So all of our walking tours, we have a variety of topics. So the one, I was a tour guide for a little bit, and I'll fill in once in a while, but I always did the Ona Judge tour. And I would bring people to the waterfront. I would bring them to the Tobias Lear House, Langdon House, Warner House, and kind of walk around Strawberry Bank as well. And then we always end our tours at the African Burying Ground. Even if they have nothing to do with the topic, it's just a really cool story that we like to bring people to, and a cool photo op. But we've got about, I always get this number wrong, which is bad because I am the marker coordinator. We've got about 27 plaques in Portsmouth.
Wow.
We call our historic markers. They say Black Heritage Trail. They all look the same. And they all have a little synopsis of Black history that's specific to that area or a person or whatnot. And that's what Valerie started. And that's why we're the trail. So people think we're a museum, but our exhibit is really the city of Portsmouth. And we started expanding outside of Portsmouth a little bit ago. And now we have 17 markers outside of Portsmouth in other towns.
Wow.
We try to do 4 a year, and it's a really great way to just collaborate with other people in New Hampshire and kind of spread our message around the state and just learn something new. A lot of people come to us and say, I found this piece of Black history in my town. How can I honor it? And that's what we do with our markers.
Well, let's talk about one of the names you mentioned. Ona Judge is a fascinating character. Can you tell us who Ona Judge was?
Yeah. So Ona Marie Judge Staines was enslaved to Georgia Martha Washington. She fled to freedom when George Washington was president, and they were living in Philadelphia, which was the capital of the time. And she came to Portsmouth. And then after a while, she lived the rest of her life in Greenland. And we know potentially where she's buried. But she chartered a ship called the Nancy, which was captained by John Bowles, which is a name she never released until after he died, so he wouldn't get in trouble for helping her. And they took her to Portsmouth. And we don't know a ton about her life here, but we do know that George Washington never stopped chasing after her. But she was able to evade him every single time. And she was able to get married and have kids and keep them from the horrors of slavery. So it's a really remarkable story because she was younger than I am now when she fled. And I can't imagine the courage and bravery that had to take, especially running from the president.
So he was the active sitting president when she fled. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, she was born in Mount Vernon in 1773 or 74. And she was Martha Washington's housemaid. So she would just do kind of everything for her. She was always by her side. She would get her up for the day, get her dressed, brush her hair, probably not brush her teeth because we know that time was bad for dental hygiene. Yeah. But she was also a gifted seamstress, and just like her mother as well. And she and 7 other enslaved people joined the Washingtons when they went to Philadelphia. First New York, then Philadelphia. Something that's really interesting is a lot of people don't know that Martha Washington was married before she married George Washington. And her late husband's name was Daniel Parke Custis. And they had a few kids together. And Ona's mother, sister, and Ona were all property of the Custis estate. And after he died and she married George Washington, they were lent to George Washington's estate.
Oh, wow.
So that was also another big thing is since he lost Ona, he would have to pay the estate back. So not only the money, but it was also humiliating for him that his enslaved person was able to escape. And it probably didn't help that she was a young girl. But she was part of such an elite household that when they were living in Philadelphia and New York, she was given a lot of freedom. She was given some money to go out into town, go shopping, see the opera, see the circus, stuff like that, which is privileges that are kind of rare for enslaved people, but they trusted her. And she kind of thought she was considered a member of the family until she found out that she was intended to be given to Martha Washington's granddaughter as a wedding present. And Eliza Parke Custis, she had a very bad temper, and she was particularly very awful to her enslaved people. So Ona just vowed she never would be her slave. And that's kind of what started her idea of running away. But yeah, it's very interesting with the whole custody of the enslaved people, because people don't realize that they were treated as property.
Yeah, no, these are just such crazy words to hear you say that I have custody over you. I get passed down to you. That's so wild to refer to another person as property like that.
Yeah. And I mean, the same thing with her mom and sister. After Ona fled, her sister was given to Martha Washington's granddaughter, which was the fate that she fled from. But she never saw her family again after coming here.
So this is the 1790s. This is really pre-abolition movement. Mm-hmm. How common was it for slaves to try to flee and pursue freedom at this time?
I would say it's pretty common. It depends. I mean, the Deep South, a little harder, but Ona's a special case just because she had that freedom to go where she wanted in the town. And we think that Philadelphia had a large free Black population at the time. So we believe that she met a lot of those people and they were able to help her and inspire her. They found Captain John Bowles for her. So, I mean, it was common. It was definitely common, but not all of them were as successful as Ona.
And so Ona's experience as a slave was abnormal. I mean, she lived with the president, the most powerful man in the new United States at the time. So she did get to enjoy more privileges and more freedom than most slaves in New England did at this time. Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So she decides that she wants to leave. And she finds Bowles, and she doesn't know where she's going. Do we know how Portsmouth becomes the spot?
I think she just wanted to go north, and Captain Bowles was headed to Portsmouth and was willing to look the other way and didn't ask a lot of questions. So I think it was just really the opportunity that she had to take.
Now, he would have been guilty of some crime, I mean, aiding and abetting a slave at this point. The president's slave, which I don't know if he knew that, but that's quite the mess to get yourself involved in.
Yes, it definitely is. It's such an interesting story because like the free Black population here, some knew who Ona was, and they helped her anyways, despite it being not only dangerous, but also like kind of the worst kind of danger, it being the president of the United States. But they helped her as a form of rebellion because obviously they didn't agree with what was going on, because George Washington actively spoke out against slavery. But at the same time, he had over 100 enslaved people at Mount Vernon, and he actively tried to get Ona back, to not pay that money and not to be humiliated, because it would have been a bad look for him. But something that was particularly evil of him was Pennsylvania at the time had a law where after 6 months, enslaved people could petition for their freedom. So George Washington, not wanting to lose any of his enslaved people, 1780 Pennsylvania Emancipation Law. Around the 5-month mark of his enslaved people being in Philadelphia with him, he would rotate them back to Mount Vernon. So they didn't have the opportunity to petition for freedom. Most of them didn't even know about the law. And they didn't even know that's why they were being rotated out of Pennsylvania. So he did that in a way to just evade the public and his enslaved people. So he was particularly a little evil when it came to slavery.
Quick Seacoast quiz. Do you love natural light? Well, yeah, obviously. Do you love your neighbors? Yeah, of course. Seacoast people are amazing. Do you need them seeing you record a podcast advertisement, practice yoga in your living room, or prepare oatmeal for the 9th time in the same week? My guess is no. And that's the great dilemma of living on the Seacoast. We want those big, beautiful windows. We want that coastal glow, but we don't need our homes feeling like a sidewalk cafe in Market Square where everyone's got a front row seat. That's why Budget Blinds of the Seacoast is clutch. They're local, they come to you, and they make the whole process very simple. So you're not pacing the aisles at Lowe's with a tape measure, wondering how a 5-minute project turned into a personality crisis. Definitely not speaking from personal experience. Whether you're in a Portsmouth condo, a classic Dover colonial, or a Maine coastal home, Budget Blinds helps you control the light in your home, protect your privacy, upgrade the vibes, and save you from the embarrassment of knowing that your neighbors can see right into your kitchen dance party. Custom blinds, shades, shutters, they're professionally installed, reasonably priced, and done right the first time. Budget Blinds of the Seacoast, because around here we love community, just not that much. Back in December, I told you about Sage Portsmouth, the new condo community right there in the McKinnon's Plaza. In the last 2 months, they've sold nearly a dozen units. So if you're one of the new neighbors settling in, welcome to life on the Seacoast. You have chosen very well. And if you're still on the hunt for your next home, Sage still has some opportunities available. Studios, 1 beds, 2 beds, they're thoughtfully designed. They have clean, modern finishes, smart layouts, the kind of space that feels really good to come home to after a long beach day at Northampton or an afternoon wandering Market Square. The building itself is set up for real life. There's private office spaces in the lobby if you're working remotely and need to jump on Zoom without your dog barking or your laundry staring at you like mine is right now. There's also a fully equipped fitness center, perfect for sneaking in a workout between meetings, or in my case, podcast edits and a million caffeine runs. You've got ample parking, a game room, and shared community spaces so you can host a book club, game night, wine night, or World Cup watch party. The maintenance is handled for you, but best of all, you are steps from some serious Seacoast staples like pins, like Vita Cantina, where I legit had the best tacos of my life recently, that alone might be reason enough to take a tour. And when you want to branch out, you're minutes from downtown Portsmouth, the beach, my favorite La Molita coffee, and basically everything else that makes this corner of New Hampshire so special. If you're curious, go check it out in person. Head to sageportsmouth.com and book a tour with Janice, Tommy, or Lauren. They'll show you around and answer whatever is on your mind. How has this changed your perception of Washington studying this? Because, I mean, I feel like growing up as a kid in America, you were taught first president, he's a hero. Yeah. He helped end the war and found the United States.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was definitely eye-opening, and I knew he had enslaved people. I just didn't know the extent of it until I got to this job, actually. I didn't know about Ona Judge before, and I don't know, it's just eye-opening. And it's really telling because it's just a really good representation of how this country was founded.
So Ona Judge successfully gets to Portsmouth despite Washington's attempts to retrieve her. What in Portsmouth in the 1790s, can you paint the scene of what Portsmouth is like?
So something people don't know. Well, like I said, a lot of people think that the North was good when it came to slavery. But Portsmouth specifically was a port city, meaning that a lot of enslaved people took their first steps in American soil in the city. And then from there were auctioned off. Strawberry Bank has a few buildings still standing where they auctioned off enslaved people. So we were not innocent. And our first governor, John Langdon, whose house is still standing, he had enslaved people. He was considered very good to enslaved people, but he was building ships. He got
now, what does that mean? Good to enslaved people?
Yeah, no, I don't know. He wasn't notoriously evil to them, I guess. He allowed his indentured servant, Cyrus Bruce, to get his freedom, and Cyrus stayed to continue to work for Langdon, which I think says a lot. But that being said, Langdon made his money through shipbuilding. It's pretty obvious what those ships were made for, to bring enslaved people to America. So in that day and age, which kind of very similar to now, nobody was really innocent. But New Hampshire played a big part. And we did have a large free Black population, but they were still lower class citizens or not even considered citizens. The African burying ground on State and Court Street is a very good testament to that. And I don't know. It's just New Hampshire and the North were not innocent when it came to slavery. And it's kind of incredible because, like I said, it was a port city. So yeah, there was a lot of ships. We believe Ona met a lot of the free Black community at the waterfront because a lot of people would take their goods there and sell them. Portsmouth the Seacoast had a very large Black seaman population. They were called Blackjacks, which is how she met her husband, Jack Staines. We don't know too much about their relationship, but they did get married. But they were an integral part of the maritime culture at the time. They were always smuggling goods, sometimes people, and gossip, which is always fun. And like I said, a lot of people would sell their goods there. So it was a big part of the business was the waterfront. And it was a big part of Portsmouth at the time.
And still is. Mm-hmm. So you said at the time, Portsmouth had a number of freed Blacks, mm-hmm. but also enslaved Blacks. Yeah,
I this could be completely wrong, but I believe there was more free Black people here than there were enslaved people.
Okay. And so what was the path to freedom at this time?
So they could buy their freedom, but it's hard for enslaved people to make any money. They could run away. And sometimes their owners, their masters would free them, would give them, grant them their own freedom. Sometimes it was after a period of time or whatnot. But yeah, there was a few different ways to grant your freedom, but they were kind of not really reachable. Which is why Ona had to take her future in her own hands.
So is there, after Ona had been not enslaved by George Washington for X amount of time, was she then free or was she always his property?
She was always a fugitive. Yeah. She lived the rest of her life as a fugitive. Okay. George Washington tried about 3 times to get her back. He would send people, but he had to do it in secret because, again, he was actively speaking out against slavery. So people couldn't know that he was also actively trying to catch a runaway enslaved girl, especially in the North where there was a big abolitionist population. So they couldn't do it in any violent way. They had to kind of get her to come quietly, which she refused. She first said, "I will return if I'm granted my freedom after Martha and George die." And they denied that. They refused that. So she didn't go willingly, and they were trying to force her. But she was just able to evade him every single time. But after his death, nobody came after her. What else was I going to say? Yeah, I don't remember.
And he died when?
99. He died kind of horrifically, which may have been deserved.
Oh yeah, didn't he die from hypothermia or something?
Blood loss. They like emptied all the blood out of his body or something like that to cure a disease, something like that. Yeah. The medicine at the time was truly extraordinary.
The story I had always heard was, here's this man that has been through multiple wars, has seen the worst things a human can see on the battlefield, and then was just like chopping wood and it rained and his clothes got all wet, and then he slept in his clothes or something, and then he died.
As one does. Yeah, no, like a lot of very powerful men were taken down by things like dysentery. Like it does make me smile a little bit. But yeah, no, medicine at the time was just insane. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of funny to find that out. Sorry, George.
We've come a long way in medicine since then, but maybe not in terms of how we treat other people. Anyways, so she's in Portsmouth. What is she getting up to on a day-to-day basis when she's here?
Yeah. So that we don't really know. We assume she worked. She had to find a living. We do know that as a young woman of color at the time, her being single kind of put her at risk. And she met and married Jack Staines. And they had 4 children, all of...
Was he white or black?
Black.
Okay.
He was a blackjack. So he was always at sea. But together they had 3 children, my bad. And she outlived all of her family.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how long did she live?
She lived until like her 80s or 90s.
That's very impressive.
Very impressive, especially for the time. Again, people were getting sick.
Wow.
Like every second.
Yeah.
Very preventable things. But she lived in Portsmouth for not too long. She had her first child here. But George Washington's last attempt to get her, he sent a man, Burwell Bassett Jr., a little tongue twister there. He found Ona, asked her to come back. She said no. And he left. And that night he was having dinner at the Langdon House, not too far from here. And he was kind of bragging about how the violence he was going to inflict on her, the force that he was going to get her, the force he was going to use to get her back. And Cyrus Bruce, Langdon's indentured servant, sent a message to Ona to let her know that she should get out of town because he's coming for her. And she was able to hire a horse and carriage for her and her child, who was about 1 at the time. And she went to her friend, Nancy Jack, who lived in Greenland. And she was one of, if not the first, Black women to own property in New Hampshire. And her husband, John Jack, was enslaved in Portsmouth for a little bit. But she lived out the rest of her life in Greenland with her children and her friend, Nancy.
So I saw that toward the end of Ona Judge's life, when the abolition movement is really starting to have a stronghold, especially in the North, Ona Judge started doing a lot of interviews with people and historians to try to further the abolitionist cause. Yeah,
towards the end of her life, she did a good amount of interviews, and that's kind of how we know most of her story, which is very remarkable. And honestly, the only way we know really what she looked like, especially at the time of her escape to freedom, is ads that George Washington put out for her.
Oh, wow.
He described her as a light-skinned mulatto girl with freckles and curly hair. So she was very white passing, or potentially white passing at the time. And that definitely helped with her escape. But the reward was $10 to get her back, which now is kind of rude. But she spoke out against what happened to her, and she shared her story. And she explained why she did it, and how she never regretted doing it in the first place, even though her sister was the one who ended up going to Martha Washington's granddaughter. she never regretted it because she also was able to keep her children from slavery, which was a very big deal.
I saw last year it was announced that there's going to be a mural of Ona Judge painted in town.
Yep.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah,
Tell me
building.
the details. On this very building?
Yeah.
Wow. Do we know who's doing it?
Yes.
Okay.
His name is Manny. He's from Positive Street Art in Nashua, New Hampshire, and he's known for doing a lot of murals. And we've been working on this since I was an intern, actually. Wow. So it's a very big deal. And this is a historic building, so we had to go through the town and get all the right permission and stuff like that, which was so fun. But we got the okay, and he's working on it now, and we're hoping to unveil it May 21st, which is Ona Judge Day in New Hampshire.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Now, also, what kind of why this is really relevant as well, back to our point earlier, the administration is really trying to wipe away a lot of America's not so pleasant history, and that has extended to Ona Judge as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. A few weeks ago, we saw that they were actively taking down signs and information at what was the executive manor for the president in Philadelphia, which is now a museum dedicated to Washington's enslaved people.
So George Washington's old home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're taking down information about the people he enslaved. So that's why we think this mural's even more important. I mean, like I said, we've been working on it for a while, well before this happened, but they're actively erasing history. So we want to make sure that people know that it still happened and it's here and it's what made our country.
Yeah. I mean, Ona Judge's name, along with several other enslaved members from Washington's manor, are on this this wall, engraved in the wall, very large for everyone to see. And now those are being defiled.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not good. How do you stay so, I mean, this is the government, these are the most powerful people in the country, and we are just everyday citizens. Do you just ever get so defeated? Do you ever get, man, why am I doing this? I'm never going to win, anything like that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I just feel like I'm always defeated, but it's a personal issue. But this job and this work and activism in general can be so discouraging and so frustrating and so exhausting, because people are actively working against you and trying to erase what you're working on. So it's hard, and it's, like I said, it's exhausting to continue, but it needs to be done, or there's nothing's going to change, or it's just going to get worse. And we're seeing that every single day in this country right now. So to be able to educate other people, because that's what will really drive people, is being educated on what's happening now, what happened, because it keeps us from repeating history, and taking ownership of what happened will keep us from repeating history. So educating yourself and others, and actively just going out and doing stuff, connecting with other members of your community, talking to people. But I think it's just super important to be fighting for the people that cannot fight for themselves anymore.
So when you are feeling defeated, what keeps you inspired to pick yourself back up again and go out there?
Yeah. I think it's just the fact that, like I said, there are a lot of people right now who are being silenced. And as of right now, I'm not. So it's my right, it's my duty to go and speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. And to, like I said, educate people. I'm learning something new every single time I come into work. Every time I get our own newsletter, I'm like, oh, no way. And it's so valuable to me as a Black woman. And I want people to know about it. So being able to spread that awareness is very, very uplifting. And it's just remarkable to see. And I think it's really bringing us together as a community, not just the Black population, but all of New Hampshire, I hope, which is, our goal. But it's been very enlightening and very inspiring.
Well, that's amazing to hear. I thank you so much for joining. I have one final question for you. This is completely out of left field, but I asked this question to a lot of people. So on this show, I talk about how the Seacoast is a hidden gem of the United States.
Yeah.
And since you're a New Hampshire girl through and through, I would love to ask you, what is a hidden gem of the Seacoast? What is a place, a business, a restaurant, something that not enough people know about that you think they should know about?
Besides the Black Heritage Trail of New Hampshire, I have to be biased and I have to do Moxie, which is on Penn Hollow Street in Portsmouth. I also work there.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I started working there when I moved here just to meet some more people, and some extra money never hurts. But it is a group of fantastic people. It has great energy, great vibe, and again, they do pay me, so you can only take so much to heart. But I love going into work there, and not only is it a good environment, we've got really good food.
It is very good.
Yeah.
That pork belly? Oof.
I know. I'm allergic to pork belly, so I can't have it.
That's a bummer.
It upsets me every time I have to bring it to a table. I'm like, I hope you're happy. I hope you.
I've never heard of a pork belly allergy before.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it just doesn't agree with me. So I just have to stay away, and it's heartbreaking every single time.
I want a big espresso martini kick right now, and I got one at Moxie recently, and it was pretty solid. Yeah.
No, pretty good. We've got some good bartenders, always coming up with new stuff for new seasons and stuff like that.
What's your favorite menu item there?
I always go back to the short rib.
Oh, yes.
It's a classic. It's so good.
Had that too.
Yeah, like I could eat it with my hands out of the pot. I don't think they'll like it, but it's so good. I love it. I always recommend it to people. Yeah.
Moxie's a great spot, and it's tucked away just in that little, just outside the alleyway. And I always forget about Moxie.
Yeah.
I always forget about it. I did this thing recently where me and a friend, Dave Higgins, tried to name as many Portsmouth restaurants as we could in 45 seconds. Yeah. And that exercise, I was like, oh my God, there's like 50 restaurants in this town.
I could not do that. Yeah. Like people would always, if we're full, people are like, oh, where else do I eat? I'm like, I don't know. There's like I'm looking at like 10 different restaurants, but I have no idea.
There's so many. The fact that we have more restaurant seats in this town than citizens is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
I didn't even know that. Yeah. It makes so much sense.
It's a fact.
But yeah.
Does it make sense?
No. I'm not surprised, but it doesn't make sense now. That's hilarious.
Well, thank you so much for joining the show and for educating the listeners. This is very important stuff that you guys are doing here at the Black Heritage Trail. It's February, so you're probably not getting a lot of visitors because it's so bitter cold, but I hope in this spring and summer that you guys have your tours filled, and I can't wait to see this mural.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That's Daria Steele of the Black Heritage Trail. A reminder that the next Seacoast Stories Dinner Club is headed to Dover on Wednesday, March 4th. To participate in the club that's taking over the Seacoast, to make new friends, and to do something a little bit different, you can hit the dinner link in the show notes to join us. I'll be back later this week with another bonus episode, but until then, thank you, Daria, for joining. Thank you, Ash Alchemy, Budget Blinds, and Sage Portsmouth for supporting this show, and thanks to all of you for listening. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Have a great week. I'll talk to you soon, but until then, live free or die.